The reason we all have journalism jobs is because we can do the hard stuff. In this world where you have all these AI tools that can literally do all the easy stuff. We have the network no one else has. We have the story ideas and analysis.
It's not always true.
Okay, maybe someday AI will be able to call up all the people on your podcast and interview them too, but not yet.
Very interested in an experiment in publishing AI-generated stories. You announced you were going to do that this summer. You've been doing it for a while. I want to know why you're doing it.
We don't publish AI-generated stories, but we do use it as an outline, as a research assistant. We use it the way you would a smart fellow or a smart intern.
Is anyone worried about brand, or do I want to work with Fortune if they're publishing AI content?
Everything is heavily vetted, and the standards are exactly the same no matter what tool you're using to help you at your starting point.
What has worked for you using AI to create stories?
If you wanted to do Sam Altman's podcast episode from this weekend that was going viral, and you didn't want to listen to however many hours it was, but you want to know the most interesting portions, could AI help you find that? There was great journalism happening, and is great journalism happening at Business Insider, as you know. Coming into Fortune, the brand is trust and quality of the smartest people in the world in business, and you can't slouch on that mission. It's very much, I want everyone in top management to be reading us. Like your boss reads Fortune. That's the mission.
Alyson, we worked together for, what, a month, 2 months, 3 months?
Yes, I think it was exactly that amount of time.
It was then called Silicon Alley Insider, and I left after a couple months after you joined, and you were basically a sales assistant. I don't know what your official title was.
Sales and marketing associate. Okay. Yes. I was 22, straight out of school.
And you rose all the way up to the top of the Business Insider masthead, and then went to Fortune in 2021, and I want to talk to you about how you are trying to revitalize, put new energy into that brand. But I'm very interested in an experiment. Do you guys call it an experiment? In publishing AI-generated stories. You announced you were going to do that this summer. You've been doing it for a while. You said you provided some context when you announced you're going to do it. Said we want to ride this wave, not be pummeled by it. I want to know why you're doing it and how it's working.
So we don't publish AI-generated stories, but we do use it as an outline, as a research assistant. We use it the way you would a smart fellow or a smart intern, and we have our top business editors overseeing processes. So, for example,
but that's different than, anyone can use it for research, right? You guys said we're making this product specifically. It's different than a reporter just using Google or using ChatGPT for research. So it's more than that.
The way that it started is not necessarily the way that it's gone, because it's an experiment. We view it as like an innovation hub within our newsroom. We all need to get better at using AI tools. How can we immerse ourselves in the technology, make us all more efficient? We are not a huge newsroom. We are a 60-person newsroom, so how can we do more with the tools at our disposal? And so we call it Fortune Intelligence, and we hired a Fortune Intelligence editor, Nick, who was actually our former executive editor, went to Netflix for a year. He came back to just experiment with all the products out there. If you wanted to do Sam Altman's podcast episode from this weekend that was going viral, and you didn't want to listen to however many hours it was, but you want to know the most interesting portions, could AI help you find that and unearth that for readers? Can it help you speed up the process of bringing something interesting to our audience? So we're using it like that.
You disclosed this. You could have just said, we've hired Nick and he's going to produce stuff for us, and you don't care whether he's using Google or anything else. You felt this was something you wanted to tell the staff and the wider world. So what was the impulse behind? Everyone is experimenting with AI. And a lot of people who said we're never going to make AI-generated content, a few of them are now saying, well, we are going to do that. I think you guys are in that boat. So was there an impetus to say, we think we can make more awesome stuff, or we think we can make more stuff for less money? Both? It
was to help us be smart and efficient with the tools at our disposal that any newsroom has, and to really say, like, okay, we're going to take some learnings here from a group that's like, you're going to be dedicated to doing it, because, by the way, if we tell people this will be something you're just expected to work in, some might not, but if it's a dedicated group trying to experiment with it all the time and share learnings, that gets you a little bit farther. So that was, and also we want to be transparent. AI is obviously somewhat exciting and scary at the same time to lots of industries, but especially to journalists. And so we didn't want to just do something kind of discreetly in the background. We try and be as transparent as we can as things are evolving, even if we don't have all the answers right away.
So not only am I an interested observer because I write about media, my newsroom, your former newsroom, has kind of announced they're going to do something similar. We're all very fuzzy on details. So maybe you could help clue me in. What has worked for you using AI to create stories? What works, what doesn't? Where are the benefits?
We have a big story assigning meeting where all reporters and all of our top editors are in it. And then from some of those story ideas, we'll say to the FI team, hey guys, like, what do you think about looking into this? And maybe they'll do a little bit of research, maybe they'll come up with an outline, and then they can help hand it to another reporter on their team, and it'll already be a starting point for them. So it like jumpstarts the process of research, of sometimes outlining, and then you take it to the next reporter, and they can take and carry on the baton from there.
Because I'm kind of doing some of that on my own, not because anyone told me to. I'm like, sometimes I'll just dump some notes. Obviously, I'm using it for where I would have used Google in the past, and sometimes they'll say, I have some ideas, can you help me outline something? Sometimes it's when I want to do something quickly or I want to do a bunch of different things. I'm pretty nervous about doing that. What kind of stories does that make sense for, and where do you say, this would not make sense for AI?
Yeah, so I'm using it right now as well. I did a live interview with Jamie Dimon at a recent conference, and we're going to make it a print segment for our next upcoming issue called In Focus, which are like lightly edited transcriptions of interviews. And so rather than me like transcribing the whole thing, coming up with Jamie's most interesting points in a 45-minute interview, I'm saying, hey, take this interview I just did, transcribe, pull out the most interesting bullets, and like help me come up with an outline for it. And that for me is going to save me a ton of time and work, and I can take it from there.
I was assuming you guys would use it for like quick turn news, commodity news, but then again, what's the point of publishing that stuff on your site?
Well, right. So we initially, honestly, I thought about that. I was like, can we take every Fortune 500's earnings report and do it much easier with AI in a way that our small 60-person team could never do it? And by the way, it would be a total waste of their time because it's commodity news. And we just haven't really used it that way as much, in first part because we do have limited resources, and second part because there's already a gazillion summaries out there. What value are we adding? So we find when we can have our editors add the value, that's where it takes it in a much more positive direction.
What is the response internally? I'm sure you probably don't get the most frank feedback, but maybe you do from writers, from editors. And what is the response externally? Is anyone worried about brand, or do I want to work with Fortune if they're publishing AI content?
Oh, we care about the brand tremendously. I think.
No, I'm just saying, are people coming to you and saying, is this a problem?
No, because everything is heavily vetted, and the standards are exactly the same as they would be for anything that didn't use it as an initial research partner. Like if we made a mistake, we would have to issue a correction. We would have to update the reader, be very transparent about every single thing. So the standards are exactly the same, no matter what tool you're using to help you at your starting point.
Again, can you think of a story where you'd say, no, this story does not make sense for this experimental push we're doing? This should be hived off from AI.
Yeah, I think if there's something where you're really like, you need to be calling sources and taking it much further, going into your historical analysis because you've been covering the industry for 20 years, like you're probably not going to get as much value as something where it's like, Netflix just had earnings. What was the key point that they had? How can we take that a step further? Let's get the story live in 2 hours. Yeah, that's different.
So where do you think you go with this in a couple of years? Is this just a non-conversation in a couple of years because everyone is doing it? You're just nodding, yes.
Yes.
This is a I won't be able to interview anyone saying, how are you using AI? Because they'll just say, like, how are you using a computer?
Well, you'd be like, you're not using AI at all? What? Where you been? Yeah, I think it'll be like that.
What has not worked? Anything where you've gone, oh, we shouldn't do that?
Look, I think there's immense value to the world and the core roots of journalism, of source-driven, relationship-driven, unique analysis. That just gets like heightened importance in this world where you have all these AI tools that can literally do all the easy stuff. Like the reason we all have journalism jobs is because we can do the hard stuff. We have the network no one else has. We have the story ideas and analysis.
It's not always true.
Okay, maybe someday AI will be able to call up all the people on your podcast and interview them too, but not yet. We have a couple years, maybe.
But I mean, I think a lot of us, we'll see. I think a lot of us are probably doing more commodity stuff than we realize. Yeah. Or we're doing commodity stuff and we realize it and we're telling ourselves it's a way to get through the next week or the next quarter, but it's kind of what we're doing. Anyway, well, this is for me and my shrink, I guess, later on. Let's talk about your arrival at Fortune in 2021. Your entire journalism career had been at BI, which was a digital upstart. It was meant specifically to sort of like hollow out the Fortunes of the world, the old media of the world, because it was faster and could be savvier. And for a long time, the old media guys just weren't publishing on the internet at all. What was it like when you got to Fortune in 2021? They had a website.
They did have a website. They didn't have a website till 2014. So I would say a lot of the digitalization just hadn't happened. All the hard parts were there, the high quality, the history of it. I mean, Fortune created the word hedge fund. We've been doing the Fortune 500 for 70 years. We edited Warren Buffett's shareholder letters. We brought down Enron. The history of it is so rich and amazing, and the brand is all there, and the smarts of the newsroom is all there. It just hadn't really had the digital opportunity. And so leaving BI, where we were trying to create a media brand from scratch, when I joined you, it had 800,000 readers. And when I left, it had hundreds of millions of readers. And we were still very much establishing the brand. The opportunity was to come to Fortune, this incredible, powerful, trusted brand, and then help it just reach more people, but not like for the sake of reaching more people, to just get our stories out the way that they should be gotten out across where people want to consume them.
Fortune had, and I think still has, a pretty stiff paywall, right? It was not chasing traffic. Yep. For the most part, and you came from sort of a traffic background. Let's get this stuff out to as many people as possible. So how are you handling that tension? Like, you want everyone to read as much Fortune work as possible. You also want them to pay for it, and it's very, very hard to read Fortune without paying for it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I left BI, we were doing so much work in subscriptions, and we were really leaning into that. So there was that foundation too, and there was great journalism happening, and is great journalism happening at Business Insider, as you know. But coming into Fortune, yeah, it was, the brand is trust and quality of the smartest people in the world in business, and you can't slouch on that mission. You can just make sure that with all of the work that you're doing, they're seeing it and they're appreciating it more. You can't if everything is too closed off. So it's just bringing that to more people.
But how do you bring it to more people when you say, here's our content which you cannot read? Or how do you think through what you let out of the paywall, what comes behind the paywall?
Yeah. Some of it is in front of the paywall. I think about it, so when I was at Business Insider, I was like, I want everyone with a job to be reading us. At Fortune, it's very much, I want everyone in top management to be reading us. Like, your boss reads Fortune. That's the mission. And then how do we bring that access to those insights down the power pipeline? And so some of that will be behind a hard paywall. We're breaking it first. You're talking to them at our conference. This is an original profile of them that we've done, and then some of it will be opening up the access to the free channels, whether that's a snippet on TikTok, a quick video on LinkedIn, maybe it's in our newsletter. You're splicing it in different ways, and so some of it can be core and premium, the bulk of it, and then the snippets for the masses can be free.
Your boss reads Fortune is a great tagline, right? Because it's flatters the bosses.
It's actually your boss's boss reads Fortune.
And then it's aspirational, right? I assume you want people who want to be the boss, and they want to read Fortune as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our most core, the CEOs who've been reading Fortune forever started often reading it in business school or in their dorm room. I want the full ambitious pipeline of power, whether you're just like that hungry college kid or maybe future non-college kid, and you don't know what you're going to start or do, but you want to be something great, and you're trying to get the wisdom from the people who are already at the top. We should be able to close that funnel, but we're starting up here.
Speaking of those aspirational things, when I moved here a long time ago, my plan was to get a job at a magazine. Maybe it would be great if I could work at Fortune one day. There's probably still people who think that, but we've had a whole bunch of panelists up here who are running their own Substack or equivalent of it. How do you think about that world where some of the most talented, most ambitious writers are becoming stars and making really good money running their own thing? How do you keep someone at Fortune from leaving and doing that? And how do you think about, is there a way to incorporate that world of contributors, Substackers into what you're doing?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I think it's really exciting that if you want to be an entrepreneur and a journalist, there's increasing avenues for you to do that and for you to monetize on your unique capabilities. But I think it's also incumbent on brands in newsrooms to make it way more appealing, ideally, have the upside of being an entrepreneur somewhat, but have it be really appealing to still work in a newsroom.
What would that look like? Is it someone who works for you full time and also has a Substack, or?
I think a lot about an entrepreneurship model, where what can you build that's uniquely yours and ours at the same time, where maybe we're not giving you your subscriber list, but maybe we're helping you monetize it. Maybe there's more of a rev share in the future of journalism than there historically has been, where if someone is building something for you and for your brand, like, what are you doing to entice them to stay?
That's if you've got someone on staff. And then what if you go to an Emily Sundberg or whomever and say, you're doing great, what can you offer an Emily or anyone who's been on this stage today?
I think there's models that are going to be formed. I mean, for us, it's like, look, best-in-class editors, best-in-class lawyers, best-in-class brand, multiple media outlets. Do you want to do print? Do you want to do digital? Do you want to do video? Do you want to do audio? Do you want all of it? We've got you. And by the way, we'll sell into you. Like, that's pretty compelling. And if you get sued, we'll back you. That's compelling too. But I think also if you're creating value and a following and people just want that reporter, like, I think brands need to recognize that the value and the importance of the emphasis of the brand of the person writing for you is as important as the brand that they're working for. They're not just lucky to work for you, you're lucky to have them, and it needs to be that mutual feeling of respect.
This sounds like a pitch you've worked on. I want to hear more about it, but we're out of time, so we're going to continue the conversation off stage. Thanks, Alyson.
Thank you, Peter.